Hello. Glad you could sit in on the conversation. The last time we were together, the subject was being ready for the end, and that we do not know when the inevitable will happen. The Old Testament writers believed being rich, right with God, was a national responsibility. Everyone had to be good with God, or they would all suffer his punishment. The New Testament writers see the end of life being individual, and that each human is responsible for their own soul, our personal connection with God. And if God has created this earth for human habitation and has not departed, as would a watchmaker walking away from his completed watch, where is God in the world? The most logical place is in the human soul as the Holy Spirit. And up here in the human mind is the source of all goodness in the world and all evil in the world. Up here is the unrelentless battle between the human ego and the human soul. What goes on up here determines how we treat one another. When someone saves another from injury or death, it makes the news. And we see every day more of how we harm others. Stabbings, shootings, pushing one onto the subway tracks, throwing sulfuric acid onto another, beheading Christians in Mozambique, killing so many in the Soviet war against Ukraine, and on and on. So how much injustice is there going to continue? It's not new. Some 3,000 years ago, our Old Testament writer of a psalm was aware of all the injustice. Although this writer or writers believed in mythological gods, injustice is taken head on in Psalm 82. Psalm is. Although this writer or writers believed in mythological gods, injustice is taken head on in Psalm 82. God presides in the great assembly. He gives judgment among the gods. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality? God presides in the great assembly. He gives judgment among the gods. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the cause of the weak and fatherless. Maintain the rights of the poor and oppressed. Rescue the weak and needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They know nothing. They understand nothing. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High. But you will die like mere men. You will fall like every other ruler. Rise up, O God. Judge the earth, for all the nations are your inheritance. For this psalm to have meaning for us in our time now, we have to see past the mythology. This psalm blames the gods for all the injustice seen then. This thought hits a nerve today. How long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Amazing. Written over 3,000 years ago, and it describes the condition we're in now. If we break the mythology down, the authors write of the gods having power over us, and today we see judges having power over us. And the rulings by judges who have political agendas to thwart the efforts to clean up crime, to deport illegal aliens, and to put criminals back on the street instead of jail, away from the innocent, makes these words, how long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked, very relevant for us right now. Politically appointed judges are adhering to the treasonous views of those controlling them, and instead of defending the innocent, the free, those who have committed sometimes horrendous crimes upon the weak, the poor, the innocent, the oppressed are let free. The psalmist gives up on the gods as failures to end the injustices, and they will die like mere men. And the psalmist calls on God to be the judge over the injustices. We as voters can give up on the judges by voting for the party that will replace those appointed judges with different judges who are committed to a safe and law-abiding society in what can be a magnificent nation when the injustices are cleaned up. You know the names of the judges that make news with their unreasonable rulings that have no common sense in the true meaning of the law, when which they are distorting. Those judges are the source of injustice, not justice. And this is causing a lot of dismay in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. We are becoming more and more divided among friends as well as in families. All around us, people are digging into their political beliefs, some trying to make sense of their political party while defending its empty name. We are a society fraught with divisions, elites against the common folk, non-religious against the religious, liberals against conservatives. There's racial prejudice, anti-Semitism, pro-life against abortionists, pro-police, anti-police, union, non-union, and the list goes on. Divisions, tearing us apart. And be it extreme, tackling divisions is in our New Testament lesson for this 10th of August, Luke 12:49 through 56. I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to undergo, and how distressed I am until it is completed. Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They'll be divided. Father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. He said to the crowd, when you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say, it's going to rain, and it does. And when the south wind blows, you say, it's going to be hot, and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky. How is it that you don't know how to interpret this present time? While these passages were written as though Jesus is teaching his disciples and the crowd, it's not logical that these are his words. Luke was written some 62 to 90 years after the death of Jesus, and it was a time when there was a movement to understand Jesus as being the Son of God, the Messiah. This movement is seen clearly in the Gospel of John. Here we have just heard words that Jesus would not have said. I have come, or do you think I have come? Which amounts to his saying, he has come as the Son of God, and according to the Torah, saying that is blasphemy, and in Jewish law, punishable by a stoning death. This is a reflection of thought in one of the younger Old Testament prophets, Micah, who in chapter 7, 5 through 6 says, do not trust a neighbor, put no confidence in a friend, even her who lies in your embrace, be careful of your words, for a son dishonors his father, a daughter rises against her mother, a daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the members of his own family. And in the New Testament, repeated almost word for word in the Gospel, Matthew chapter 10 through 33 through 36, do not suppose that I have come to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. What can we glean from all this dissension? The prophet Micah was writing some 700-800 years before Christ to explain the conditions of a corrupt city, Samaria, capital of the kingdom of Israel. And his words were used in Matthew to say that truth is more important than family harmony. In both Micah and Matthew, the word sword is not to be taken literally, but rather as an image of cutting issues into two pieces, for and against. The prophet Micah places his hope in God to clear out the corruption, and the author of Matthew places his trust in Jesus. It's not logical that Jesus said, "I have come," and it's most probable that a storyteller inserted the divisiveness from Micah into Matthew to explain the situation he saw, where there were those who believed Jesus and those who did not. And the lesson concludes with Jesus saying, as he has said to the scribes and Pharisees, "You hypocrites, you know more about the signs you see in the sky and not what is going on at the present time." And that is, they should have seen in Jesus being there and teaching the age of God's rule on earth was near, or possibly had begun already, and having seen signs of that, live their lives faithfully. But those who read the signs in the sky to tell them whether are not able or willing to see the signs of God's rule in the world. This has to have been the effort of a storyteller or tellers to show Jesus as the Son of God and use division, which has always resulted from new ideas. Division. Ending slavery, there was for and against. Women voting, there was for and against. Automobile replacing horse and buggy, for and against. Electric cars and gasoline cars, for and against. And this new idea in Luke today is there was division against the teaching that God's rule on earth was close at hand, and the sign of its arrival was Jesus. We must be careful here when the words attributed to have been said by Jesus, "You don't know how to interpret this present time," meaning you don't know that I am the sign ushering in God's rule in the world. You don't know how to interpret this present time. Most logically were the words of storytellers who are thinking with ancient knowledge that would be limited to kings ruling. And so that's how they describe God's ruling. Well, they were on the right track. Jesus was teaching about God's relationship with us and our relationship with not only God, but with our neighbor as well. And so in these days, we have divisions over open or closed borders. Is an immigrant a legal immigrant? And is an illegal alien also an immigrant? Is the majority of citizens of this country to be subjected to illegal aliens because a political party wants to import potential voters at the expense of law-abiding taxpayers? And are some of those who identify themselves as ministers misunderstanding who are legal immigrants and who are illegal aliens in their effort to appear to be Christian in their support of those here illegally? These are signs of the times to be understood. These are times when the word hypocrite is appropriate. The crimes committed by those here illegally negates them being our neighbor to be loved as ourselves. And that is a sign of the times to be honestly recognized. It isn't God's rule that is at hand. It is the teaching about God and God's relationship to us, and our relationship with one another is the result of how we understand that relationship we have with God. We're going through times of division. We have to have faith it doesn't get out of hand and turn violent. In Manhattan, thousands supporting Palestinians have cried out for intifada, violence against. In Manhattan, thousands supporting Palestinians have cried out for intifada, violence against Jewish communities in Gaza. While over in Gaza, Palestinians are demonstrated against being ruled by Hamas, an agent of Iran. Dissidence is rampant in this world of injustices. War is injustice. And the Alaska Summit didn't produce the end of killing yet. From the efforts of our peacemaking president, we wait for further news tomorrow, Monday, to see where the Putin invasion of Ukraine is headed. This primitive killing each other has got to end sometime, which we're out of now. And next time, we'll tackle Psalm 71, 1 through 6, and Luke 13, 10 through 17. Till then, have a good rest of your day and sunshine tomorrow. It's cold.